Hi, and welcome to Shorline Conversations. I'm Marilyn Giuliano, State Representative for Lyme, Old Saybrook, and Coastal Westbrook. This is a time really of unprecedented recession. It has been likened in seriousness to not having occurred since the Second World War. And all of you between hospitality and healthcare and retail are taking on an enormous challenge in this type of economic times to not only stay afloat but maintain your good sense of humor, keep your employees there, and manage the bottom line. Steve, what would you consider to be the greatest challenge at this point in terms of the economic recession for the Saybrook Point?
Our challenge is really bringing in business, and for instance, during the week, our corporate business is very important to us to sustain a viable operation. And the corporate business, as far as corporate travel, it almost doesn't exist anymore. All the travel budgets have been cut, and meeting planners have all been fired, and so we have very little corporate business in the state of Connecticut right now. Our weekend business has been affected also, but not to the same degree. And so we're trying to diversify ourselves and try to do different things so that we can bring some business in during the week, because it's pretty quiet during the week at Saybrook Point Inn unless we do have some corporate business.
Elena, you must be seeing a little bit more constancy, I would suspect, given that you're a healthcare business?
We are, although what we're seeing is people will put off those annual eye exams. They'll overwear their contact lenses to save a little bit and not refill their prescription as soon as they should. And then we get the emergency phone calls that now there's a corneal ulcer, the eye is really irritated. So a little bit more of the eye emergency side of things. And people are holding out on getting that new pair of glasses. They're tolerating a little bit less good vision.
Keith, retail has got to have been very hard hit in this recession. How are things going at the Saybrook Country Barn?
Well, it's as challenging a time as we've had in our past 32 years, for sure. We follow the real estate market, and everybody knows nationwide what's happened to real estate. Fortunately, we do have a very strong customer base in second and third generations, and they've just, been loyal to us.
One of the other things that I hear, and Keith, I'll ask you about it, is that Connecticut is not the most business-friendly state. How would you respond to that statement?
Whether it's eyeglasses or a room to rent or a sofa to purchase, all those additional taxes somewhere or entitlement programs that we continue to support, from the capital on down, end up at the consumer's pocketbook. So, obviously I think less taxes will increase sales more. But, you have to balance both. At some point we have to probably consider where we're going to spend our money and how we're going to spend it.
Elena, you are not just the CEO of King Family Eye Care. You're also a certified public accountant by training. From this tax and regulation standpoint here in Connecticut, what's your take on it as a small family business owner?
Taxes are hard. They're hard for all business owners, but particularly small business owners, because we have to make it up somewhere. To pay so much out just takes away from what we can reinvest back into our business to grow. So the more money that we can free up there as a small business owner in all the different avenues that we pay taxes in, the better it is for us as a business, the more people we can employ as we reinvest back into ourselves. So,
very good point. Steve, when we talk about employment, have you had to weather staff reductions to kind of get through this recession? You're a big operation.
Yes, we have. Unfortunately, this is probably the first time in our history we've handed out pink slips, and I'm very sad to say that is what we had to do, and we didn't replace the positions. On the tax side, I'd like to say, though, the state's very non-competitive in their tax structures, and that for us, Rhode Island's just a few miles away from us, and people that keep their boats in Rhode Island don't pay sales tax. People that buy their boats in Rhode Island don't pay sales tax. People in Connecticut buy their boats, they pay sales tax, and boat slip rentals, sales tax. And so they have tax, they keep adding more people on the tax rolls like marinas, because before they weren't paying taxes. So what we're seeing now is people leaving the state of Connecticut and going where there's a more economical place to do business. Same thing with gasoline taxes. People want to fill up in Point Judith, Rhode Island. It's not far from Old Saybrook, Connecticut, and boats can travel very easily that distance and fill up. And when they fill up, they're buying hundreds of gallons of fuel, and Connecticut is missing out on that tax revenue because they have a non-competitive tax structure. And it goes on and on and on. It goes with the liquor stores across the state lines. Everybody knows that. It goes with cigarettes. It's gasoline. It just adds up. And the more they tax, the more people are going to find other places to buy their products, similar to the internet. And so when the Connecticut legislator understands that people will move to where they can buy things competitively, we're going to be in a situation they're going to just keep raising taxes and they're going to get less revenue.
What can Connecticut do? What can the legislature do to help you most as small family-owned business owners?
I'd like to answer that. I think the General Assembly needs to give us the ability to trust them. And I don't think as business owners we can trust the General Assembly to do things in our best interest, because for years they've done whatever they do to raise their budgets up, and government has increased in spending 50% in the last 10 years. It's ludicrous what the state has done, and they continue to spend money like there's just a water faucet that's never going to go dry. And it all falls back to the backs of businesses, time and time and time again. And so what I think the General Assembly can do for us is give us, the business owners, the trust that they're going to look out for our best interests. But it has not been the case for as long as I've been in the state of Connecticut, and I was born here.
And I have to say, I agree with you wholeheartedly. It has been one of the most difficult exercises for legislators to try to shrink the size of government and to shrink the amount of spending.